The hearing
Recording in
resumes.
progress.
Time is now 10 o'clock. Just quickly to check. Honorable Masaule, can you hear us? Honorable Masaule.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair, I can hear you. Find comfort in that picture.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Masaule. Welcome to all members at M46 and as well as in the virtual platform. The public protector here, M46 with us, and our evidence leaders, Advocate Bawa and Advocate Mayosi. We also acknowledge you on the virtual, Advocate Mbofu, the media, members of the public. Hopefully you're also switched on YouTube and 48. And as you always do, please indicate if you can't hear us or if you're muted. And everybody else here, including those that are following us from the K-Bar, you're welcome. On that, I want us to get straight to our today's witness. And I'm going to ask Fatima Ibrahim here at M46 to do the preliminaries with the witness that we have on stand today.
Chair, I'm told that the witness is not on the platform as yet. If you could please check for me.
He's also not on the waiting. Just if anybody who can call can do that.
I'm just not sure if he's got the link.
Okay, can somebody give him the link? We will be patient and wait for him to go on the platform. Okay. 48 and YouTube are in order. Everything is in order. We'll just the main person that we're going to wait for. Okay, we'll give it another 2-3 minutes. Yes, Advocate Myers.
The witness doesn't have the link. We have sent it to. Yeah. Okay. Chairperson, the witness has now joined. You can just check if his connection is stable.
Thank you, Ms. Fatima Ibrahim. We seem to have found our missing link, which is the witness. Mr. Ndau, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Apologies for getting the link late. It is not your fault. We understand that. Thank you for being on standby.
Yes.
I will now invite Ms. Fatima Ibrahim to speak to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Ndau. Can you hear me clearly?
I can, but there's an... Yes, I can, but there's an echo. After somebody speaks, there seems to be an echo. I hear two people talking.
Okay, it could be because the chair's mic was still on, but it's been switched off. Mr. Ndau, can you please state your full name for the record? Can you please state your full name for the record?
Rufuno Reginald Ndau.
Thank you, Mr. Ndau. Mr. Ndau, you have been invited, subject to the provisions of Section 16 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act, to appear before this committee as a witness and to answer questions in respect of the committee's inquiry into the removal of the Public Protector, Advocate Mkhwebane. Please be informed. Can you hear me, Mr. Ndau?
Sorry. Yes, I can, but there seems to be this echo. When you speak to me, yes.
Okay, we'll ask IT to attend to that while I continue.
Please.
Maybe before you continue, maybe just a minute, I would want him to be on us and not to miss anything. It's better we do that than fixing it as we fly. Because the challenge might be in your space as well, but let's sort that out. I will ask IT to assist on our side, but also on your side to just check that out. Is it still, do you still have an echo? Does it still take long for you to hear me?
In fact, there is a, you know, what you were saying a few seconds ago, it just finished now. It's like, you know, there's a delayed audio.
Okay, I get your point. So it's a slow motion thing.
Yes. So
Okay.
while I'm hearing your previous something that you said previously, I can hear you talking next again. So it's like there are two people talking to me at the same time.
Okay, let's do this. My name is Pubodile Richard Janji. Did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Then the slow motion is gone now. It's better now. You agree?
It's just finished saying it's better now.
You also don't speak for a long time. You also put a long pause before you say anything.
It's because Chairperson. It's because I'm still listening to what is happening in my ear as well.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Are you having ear things that you have put on board that might also be the challenge?
Yes, I've got headphones. Let me just take them off.
Can you take them off? You will see it's going to be better.
Okay. I've taken them off.
My name is Lufuno Ndo. Can you hear me?
I've taken them off.
My name is Lufuno Ndo. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Now we have picked up the slow-mo. I think IT must assist.
Yeah, there is a serious problem, Chairperson.
No, we agree with you. We agree with you. We'll try and sort it out.
Please.
Because the last thing we want is us not hearing each other or taking too long. We could be here until tomorrow. And that's not our plan at all.
Yes, Chairperson.
IT, can you see what you can do to fix that? I think everybody else has picked that up as a challenge. And they are saying it's coming from us, that we're taking too long to be heard. From this room. Honorable Mahlaule.
Yes, Chairperson.
Today you are on duty.
Yes.
Is it? Does it take long for you to hear me?
No, it takes longer to hear the witness.
Not the chairperson.
No, I'm hearing you as you speak.
Thank you. So now we're locating where the problem is. So the problem is not here. We'll ask Mr. Ndo must be assisted wherever he is so that gets sorted out, because if those on the virtual don't have the same problem as he is, it's clear where the problem is. We're not going to fix what's not broken. Mr. Ndo?
Yes.
It looks like it's faster. Can you hear me now properly?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I also can hear him as and when he speaks, Chair.
And it's not slow and so on, Mr. Mahlaule. I have got a technician today in the name of Mika Mahlaule.
No, it's no longer delayed, Chair. It's proper.
Thank you.
Chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Ndo.
Sorry, Chairperson. The precise problem I'm having is when you speak to me, I hear you, and then later your words are repeated again.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So I speak twice.
Twice, yes. That is what is happening here. I'm not sure what's happening.
It's like there's a live me and a ghost me.
And yes, and a recorded feed that comes to me.
Is that still happening as we speak?
It is. I just said the last statement that I made to you now.
Just listen to the second one. I think it's a better.
Advocate.
Okay. I think
I think that the chairperson, you have to help me to listen to the second one. Yes.
Mr. Ndo, let's try this for the lock out and join in again.
Okay, let me try that quickly.
Thank you. It's a janky advice. Don't know what it is. Mr. Ndo,
Chairperson,
are you back?
I'm back, Chairperson, yes.
I don't see you. Now I can see you. Can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Yes, it's not happening anymore, Chairperson.
The ghost is gone.
It's gone. It's gone.
Welcome. Welcome
you,
to
Chair.
real life. Thank you. I hand over to Ms. Fatima Ibrahim.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Ndo, you're lucky that you don't need to listen to me twice this morning, but I'm going to start again from the beginning. Mr. Ndo, you have been invited, subject to the provisions of Section 16 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act of 2004, to appear before this committee as a witness and to answer questions in respect of the committee's inquiry into the removal of the Public Protector, Advocate Mkhwebane. Please be informed that by law, you are required to answer fully and satisfactorily all the questions lawfully put to you or to produce any documents that you are required to produce in connection with the subject matter of the inquiry, notwithstanding the fact that the answer or the documents could incriminate you or expose you to criminal or civil proceedings or damages. You are, however, protected in that evidence given before a House or committee may not be used against you in any court or place outside of Parliament, except in criminal proceedings concerning a charge of perjury or a charge relating to the evidence or documents required in these proceedings. Please be aware further that in terms of Section 17(2) of the Powers Act, a person who willfully furnishes a House or committee or makes a statement before it which is false or misleading commits an offence and is liable to a fine or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 2 years. Mr. Ndo, you'll now be required to take an oath or to affirm that the evidence you're about to give is truthful. Which do you prefer between the oath or affirmation?
An oath.
May I ask that you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I swear that the evidence I shall give
I swear that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Chair, the witness is now duly sworn in.
Thank you, Ms. Fatima Ibrahim, and thank you, Mr. Lufunando. I now recognize Advocate Bauer.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Ndo.
Good morning, Advocate Bauer.
Mr. Ndo, you deposed to an affidavit to which there are several annexures, and just for the committee's information, Mr. Ndo's in the Eastern Cape at the moment, and he hasn't been able to print a hard copy, so he's working from an electronic version, which may just cause some delay in answering of questions. Your affidavit is going to be on the screen to assist in this process, and in paragraph 2 of the affidavit, and for the record purposes, it's located at bundle 18, bundle F number, no, sorry, let me get this right. It's bundle D and it's number 20 and it's page 3466. You served at the Office of the Public Protector for a period of 19 years in various capacities, correct?
Correct.
And you had commenced employment in 1999 as a senior investigator. You were promoted as the provincial representative in Mpumalanga. You then returned to head office in 2007, where you headed the outreach branch. You subsequently moved to the service delivery branch, and then you were transferred to provincial investigations and integration at head office in the capacity of an executive manager.
Correct. Correct.
Right. You resigned on 1 November 2018.
Correct.
Right. And that's effectively your 30-day notice period after which you leave the employee, correct?
Correct.
Right. Now, you also served in the capacities of acting chief executive officer on an occasion in the period 2016 to from 1 December 2016 to 31 January 2017, correct?
Correct.
And the evidence leaders approach you to provide evidence in respect of this matter, correct?
Correct. Correct.
And we provided you with certain files and certain files. Well, let's take this back. You have not got access to the files and correspondence and documentation from when you left the employ of the public protector, correct?
Correct.
And so we had provided you with certain emails, reports, and documentation, correct?
Correct.
And you had indicated to us that in some respects your recollection isn't as what it should be given the time period that has elapsed.
Correct.
Right? Especially when it comes to details of the contents of reports.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, correct.
Now, we had specifically asked you in respect of paragraph 5 to take us through the operation of provisional reports and section 7.9 notices, and you set that out in paragraph 7.9, and the committee heard evidence on the process of where provisional reports was initially issued, but subject to confidentiality embargoes, and that system was changed precisely because these reports got leaked, correct?
Correct.
Right. And then we had what was determined to be section 7.9 notices, which are issued in terms of the act to implicated parties, and together with on that section 7.9 notice, they would then be provided with portions of the evidence or the information that would be relevant to their interest when they are implicated.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, correct.
Now, can you just tell us, are 7.9 notices dispatched to implicated parties where there are adverse findings against them, or where they are only where there are adverse findings against them insofar as there is an expectation under the remedy that they are meant to do something?
Section 7.9 notices are dispatched to any person against whom adverse findings will be made.
So it's not dependent on the remedy or what relief is going to be sought in the remedy?
Not necessarily. It's to give the party against whom adverse findings will be made an opportunity to respond to the findings that might be made, for example.
Right. You also point out in your affidavit that there are two methodologies that you've come across that gets used when 7.9 notices are crafted in paragraphs 1 when Section 7I notices are issued. Can you just explain that to us? It's in paragraph 7 of your affidavit.
Yes, it would depend on the specific investigator. For example, some would go straight to drafting a Section 7.9, whereas others would start with a draft report, which would make it easier then to extract a Section 7.9 from the notice. But it depends on the drafting style of an investigator.
Right. And 7I notices are generally quality. 7I notices should be quality assured before they go out. Is that so?
Yes, they should.
And they would be. They should be considered by, among others, the quality assurance officials and the PP, who is generally the person who signs the 7I notice.
Yes.
Right. And the investigator would craft the 7I notice, and at the bottom of paragraph 7, you would say that there would be input from the investigator's manager, the executive manager, the task team, or the legal services.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, it would go through all these people, yes.
And once submissions are obtained pursuant to these Section 7I notices, that would invariably result in reports being amended or reports drafted in a particular manner.
Yes, the amendment would depend on whether there is information that would change what was contained in the Section 7.9. But if there isn't, then it would go to finalizing the report.
Okay. Now, we're going to be dealing, Mr. Ndau, specifically and only with the Vrede investigation today, right?
Yes.
And you can recall that the matter came up to head office in September of October 2017. Can you maybe explain to the committee the context of that?
My recollection, Advocate Bauer, was that the investigator was investigating the matter. Advocate Silia was instructed to bring the file to head office, and that's what happened during, I think it was late September or early October. But it should be during one of those months, yes.
And there was a meeting. Can you tell us who was at this meeting?
Yes, we then had a meeting in the CEO's boardroom. It was myself, the public protector Advocate Mkhwebane, Secretary Ephraim Kabinde, the senior investigator who investigated the matter, Advocate Silia, and Advocate Mlonyeni, who had assisted Advocate Silia in the investigation.
Right. In paragraph 8 of your affidavit, you say, at this meeting, it was decided that the matter would be finalized by provincial investigations. What was your understanding?
My understanding was that the file would then be handed over to my branch, which is PII, and then would be responsible for making sure that the report is finalized and signed off.
Right. And what did that finalized mean? What was the job going to entail?
It was to quality assure the report, since it had gone through the think tank. And if we were to identify any gaps, then we would need to plug these gaps.
Okay. By that stage, the Section 7(9) notice had already been issued, correct?
That's correct.
Right. And at this meeting in the boardroom, what were you specifically concerned about?
On the day, all we did was to look for receipts for purchases that were done in respect of the Freedom Project. That was the only task on that day, as far as I can recall.
Why were you looking for that, Mr. Ndau?
My recollection, Advocate Power, was that the Free State Office had indicated that they could only obtain 9 receipts for payments that had been done, and those were in respect of cattle. And as for a lot of other purchases, there were no receipts. So that is why we then had to look at the file and see what receipts had been provided.
Okay. It just struck me, you were the executive manager, PII at the time, so the Free State would have been reporting to you. Was that so?
Yes.
And who was dealing with the file in your division?
At some point, it was my second in charge, Mr. Mtupi.
And he was the one who Mr. Samuel them were reporting to.
Yes, they were communicating and reporting to him directly on this matter.
When you had this meeting in the boardroom, were you involved? Were you occupied with dealing or drafting with the report at all?
You mean on the day of the meeting?
Yeah.
No, we did not even look at the report itself, as far as I can recall.
And you had a recollection that the PP hadn't looked at it at all yet. Or let me rephrase that. All you could recall was a request for the receipts file. Can you just relate that?
Can you please rephrase, Advocate Power, so that I get your question very clearly?
Paragraph 11. Sorry.
Yes.
The meeting continued, and you recalled at some point that the public protector requested, or Mr. Kabinda took the receipts file.
Yes, that's my recollection, yes.
Right. And did you have all the files and the evidence with you there on the day?
My sense, Advocate Power, was that Advocate Celia brought the whole file.
Okay. Right. You then left the office and you receive a phone call. Can you tell us about that phone call?
Yes, on the very day that we had a meeting in the CEO's boardroom, I received a call on my cell phone from the public protector. And I recall it was a very short phone call. And she indicated to me that as far as she was concerned, Advocate Celia was doing the bidding of the Democratic Alliance in this matter, and that she was then working for the DA. And she also indicated to me, and her words to me were, she would be happy if there would be no adverse findings in this matter.
And where were you?
My recollection is that I was already driving home.
Approximately what time of the day would that have been?
It would have been after 4:30.
Okay, and tell me, how did you know in the top of paragraph 12, you say she called you from her cell phone? How did you know it was from her cell phone?
Because when a call comes through on your cell phone, you can see who the person is who is calling.
And had you by then already considered the evidence presented or provided by the Free State?
Not yet, because we had just received the file on the very day.
And what did you think of the comments that were made to you?
For me, they were surprising because what the public protector is enjoined to do in terms of the law and the Constitution is to be impartial and independent. And if you say to me, you would be happy if there are no adverse findings, you are actually saying that you would be happy that we then disregard whatever the evidence says in a specific file. That is what it meant to me.
Okay. And did you inform anybody of this?
I shared it with my team afterwards, and I recall also when I was in Mpumalanga for some matter, sharing it with Mr. Botromia Sitole, and if I recall correctly, I shared it with another senior investigator in the Durban office, Mr. Skakane.
And what was the base?
So we were actually discussing other matters that were in the office. In the KZN office, for example, we had been discussing a matter where I had taken a decision based on the delegation that was given to me to review a matter. And the matter didn't die even after I reviewed it and so on. So I shared this sentiment with Mr. Skakane. When I was in Mpumalanga with Mr. Stole, we were also discussing other matters. And for me, I felt I needed to just indicate to them a discussion that I had with the public protector.
And did you inform Advocate Cilliers about this as well?
Yes, I did.
Did you understand what was relayed to you to be an instruction?
For me, I understood it to be more a desire than an instruction. And that's how I related it to everyone that I shared it with.
And was it ever repeated to you again?
No, it wasn't.
And okay, so I'm going to take you through from Raf. You were away from the office during the period of April to August 2017, correct?
Yes.
And you returned in early August.
Yes, I returned around the 7th of August.
Right. Now, you are CC'd and copied into a number of emails, and I'm just going to take you through those as we go along in that. And we don't necessarily need to go, but I'll tell we'll try and put the annexes up as they come to the screen. The first one is a version of the Vrede report that is provided to you under copy of an email dated 11th August 2017, and it's LRN1 is the email. And the email below shows that the report is actually provided by Erica to Salo Matupi, and it says attached, will sit with team early tomorrow to double check and complete certificate. Can you just, for the committee, say what is that certificate?
It would have been a certificate certifying that as far as the originator of the file, of the report, which in this case would be the Free State Office, is satisfied that they've done a proper job in terms of quality assurance, and it's fit and proper then to be sent over to the next level that can look at it.
Okay. And so this then comes to you, and attached to that is a report which is annexed to LRN 2. Now, Mr. Ndau, these copies of the reports were provided to you by us as evidence leaders, correct?
Yes, correct.
And do you have a recollection of the details of the reports in any way? In the sense that, would you know what changes were made when and how things came about?
I wouldn't recall those details, no, because these reports went through a lot of reiterations.
Okay. And so the purpose of putting these reports before the committee was simply to show that these were the reports that you would have been privy to because you were part of the emails.
Yes, correct.
At LRN 3, right? There is
Yes.
an email dated 21st of August, which says formal report Vrede ERC correction 17th August checked Free State 21 August, and it says, dear Cello, corrections made by TT and discussed with team this morning. Thanks, Erica. What is TT?
That would be the think tank Advocate Power.
Right. And so would it be fair to say that this is a version of the report that has then come back after the think tank process on the to the team?
Yes, it would.
And that report one sees at LRN 4. And then if you go to LRN 5, you see an email that starts at the bottom of the email, which says, Mr. Nemasisi says, here with the attached report with my comment and cosmetic track changes, please check whether the remedial against regarding the conduct of the HOD should be referred to the Premier or relevant MEC. And then if you go up, is Mr. Lears that says attached corrected. Please note that in terms of the Public Service Act, the HOD of a provincial department reports to the Premier of a province. We confirmed in a meeting with the MEC that this authority was not delegated to him. We're now on the 7th of September 2017. And then on the top of the email, we see on 8th September, you provide that report to Advocate Mkhwebane and CC is a secretary, correct?
Correct.
Right. And attached to that email is the report which one finds at LRN 6. Correct?
Correct.
Right. Now, on the next email one finds, which is to LRN 7. Go down. The PP on the 11th of September. No, go up a bit. We've been there. in the middle, you see the PP responds on the 11th that says, Nemasisi and Ndau see my comments. Can you verify whether indeed this response capture the issues we raised with the Premier? And then says, Ndau, please draft a letter to the Premier and refer to his response and request all the invoices or documentary proof which could not be sent to PRFS. Can you recall what that meant?
Yes, that related to the invoices that I indicated earlier, that the Free State Office had indicated that they had not been provided with. And my recollection as well is it might also have related to vouchers. Oh, sorry, not vouchers, invoices, sorry.
Okay. And do you recall what attached to that, to this email was, it says, Nemasisi and Ndau see my comments. Can you recall what that was?
I can't recall the comments, no.
You can't recall the comments. Can we just go to paragraph 18 of your affidavit? You say that the PP responded to your email with various comments. And we have not been able to provide you with those comments.
Correct.
Right. If you go then back to LRN 7, it shows that if you go up on the email chain, you then asked Mr. Samuels to send you a copy of the Section 7(9) notice that was sent to the Premier.
Right.
And presumably that was to check what Advocate Mkhwebane had asked you to check. Correct?
Precisely correct.
Right. Right. You then, if we go to paragraph 20 of your report, of your affidavit, right. You then send an email to Mr. Matupi with the correspondence that the PP asked you to prepare, setting out the information that was still needed by Mr. Magashule.
Correct.
Right? Right. And it's annexures 8 and 9. And if we go to annexure LRN 9, you'll see a copy of the letter that gets sent to the then Premier Magashule, asking, thanking him for response. And in paragraph 3, the further documents that is requested that is sought. Correct?
Correct.
Right. And you had then asked, if we go back to the affidavit, letters to the premiers do you send it out, or does it get sent out by the public protector?
We would send them out. It's the signature that would then be, they would be signed off by the public protector herself, but we would send them out ourselves.
My apologies, you're correct. Right. And I then indicated to you that certain draft task team minutes, and we don't need to go there, reflect that after the initial Section 7(9) notices were issued in June, a further Section 7(9) notice was to be issued. Can you comment on that?
My sense on this one, Advocate Power, was perhaps the reference to a further Section 7.9 in the TASTIM minutes would have been a reference to the letter that I had to draft to then Premier Magashule, confirming receipt of his response, as well as indicating the information that the public protector still required.
Right. And so as far as you can recollect, was there any decision taken to send out a supplementary 7.9?
Not that I can recall, Advocate Power.
Okay. And is there any impediment to sending out a supplementary 7.9?
In terms of the law, Advocate Power, I don't think there is any impediment. It depends on whether further information that might have new adverse findings, for example, that implicate a person, have come to light.
It will actually only...
Just before you proceed, Mr. Ndou, just so that you speak through the chair, because at some point the chair will have to come through your defense, not through Advocate Power.
Oh, sorry, Chairperson. Sorry, Chairperson.
Okay. And at the time, the deadline for that request was 31st October. Had you but you hadn't received a response yet?
Not yet.
And what then transpired?
Chairperson, I cannot recall whether we sent a reminder, but I recollect that at some point we did receive a response.
There was also then an internal opinion prepared, a legal opinion prepared by your senior manager, Mr. Nemasisi, where he expressed the view that the transaction was not a public-private partnership, correct?
Correct, Chairperson.
Right. And can we maybe just deal with that? What happens when advice of this nature is rendered?
Usually, if there is disagreement about a legal issue, for example, in the office, then legal services would be required to render an opinion, and then that opinion would then be taken on board.
And if you didn't agree with the legal services opinion?
If there is no agreement, then perhaps an external legal opinion would have been sought.
Okay. So if changes were subsequently made to the report in line with the legal opinion, can one accept that there was an agreement with the legal opinion?
Yes, Chairperson.
All right. If I take you to LRN10, which is at 3720, you then, 3720, LRN11. All right. This is an email that you send out, correct?
Correct, Chairperson.
Okay, can maybe just take us through the items in the email. As you're aware, the public protector had approved the task team. Can you maybe tell us in the context and how this task team came to be approved?
Yes, Chairperson. At the time, PII, which was my branch at National Office, the legal people were just myself and Mr. Mtupi. So I then approached the public protector to approve a task team of senior investigators who would then assist PII with finalization of the report. So that this is not the task team that the PP created. It was a smaller task team just to look at the Free Dairy Project report.
And this, to your recollection, included Mr. Kikana, Advocate Redani, and Mr. Satauli.
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay. And you say the final version of the report, was that a report that was finalized?
That would have been, through you, Chair, that would have been the latest version of the report that was doing the rounds in the office. Not that it was a signed report, just the latest version.
Okay. And then copies of letters directed to the Ministers of Agriculture and DTI. What was that, Mr. Ndau?
The public protector had requested PII to write to both ministers to see if their ministries or departments that fall under their ministries had dealt with projects similar to the Free Dairy Project in order to benchmark with the view that if they had, then would see if they would fall in line, with what those two departments had done. That was the understanding.
And did you get the response?
No, we never received a response as far as I recall, Chairperson.
Okay. And then I take it that 3 was the letter that had been directed to the Premier asking for further information, and 4 was the opinion as to whether it's a triple P or not.
Correct, Chairperson.
And then there were files of invoices that had been provided, and later in the email you detail if we move further down, both the you write reminders to the 2 ministers for a signature. Our view is that we have requested the 2 ministers to give us a good idea of our projects, such as the Free Project, should be properly run and then benchmark. So the ministers didn't respond, and then you prepared the reminders for them.
I recollect that, yes, we would have.
Yeah. And then you still needed to do comparison of the 2 sets of invoices to see if payments were done. Okay? And then talk us through the last paragraph.
This paragraph relates to what I had picked up when I looked at the Section 7.9 on the instruction of the public protector to see if it dealt with the issues that had been raised in the Section 7.9, specifically to the Premier. And in order to do that, I also had to look at the latest draft report then. And I picked up that in the draft report, we were indicating that what was then in the media about the Gupta emails and how some of the monies that were meant for this project could have been diverted to foreign bank accounts and perhaps even paid for a wedding at Sun City, had a bearing for me, as far as I'm concerned, on the investigation that we're conducting.
Right. And were these Gupta leaks the subject matter of the initial complaints lodged?
No, they were not.
Right? And had they been addressed in the investigation at that stage at all?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. I'm going to take you to a minute of a meeting, think tank meeting of the 14th of August 2017. If we can just go there. If we see on top the public protectors present, and you're also present on the list of, actually, yeah, second last line, you see your name.
Yes. Chairperson, yes.
And members of your task team are also present at this meeting. You see that?
Yes, Chairperson.
Now, on page 31 of this minute, if we can just go down to that page, I think it's, I don't, you have to scroll. I don't have the exact number. Okay. Here is a report back at the think tank meeting of where Advocate Cilliers in August presented the report. Gives a report back on the 7-9 notices that the Premier had responded and that the MEC had responded by saying the Premier will respond. The report had been transferred to a new template, and she further explained issues that had been identified. Go down. Right, and then go further down. She deals with that. Stop quickly. The PP suggested that we approach the Premier to engage with the SIU to determine who benefited. The PP indicated that there's nothing wrong to check Gupta leaks as well for purposes of this investigation, and that Advocate Cilliers indicated that she did look at the emails on the press, went back to the financial statements to find if there's anything missing, but they didn't find anything. The CEO inquired about the pictures. Mr. Nemasisi indicated that it's critical to check the Gupta leaks because you will find complainants taking reports on review. Advocate Cilliers indicated that the complainant is interested in administration issues he raised in the complaint and not the Gupta leaks. And then go up to the third column. What's written there? Go up. No, you're going down. Go up. Advocate Cilliers to look at the Gupta links and see if there's anything that we're missing, to add the paragraphs relating to the Gupta leaks and for the report to be resubmitted. Now, your evidence was that you had raised the issue with the public protector and you didn't receive a response. And that was in September.
Yes.
Can you explain that in the context of, it seems as if there was an instruction in August where the public protector was saying, look at the Gupta leaks?
Yes, Chairperson. My sense was, since in the latest version of the report, we were still sticking to the issue that there is no link between the Gupta links and the investigation that we're doing. And to add to that, what Advocate Cilliers herself has said at the think tank, to say the complainant is only interested in maladministration and not the Gupta links. For me, it felt like there was still a gap, which is why I then raised it again with the public protector.
Okay. And if we turn to LR in 12, um, 3721. This is an email that is sent on the 17th of September to Advocate Mkhwebane and Mr. Nemasisi, and you see in there Mr. Matupi. correct?
Yes, correct, Chairperson.
And maybe just take us through that email.
In the email, I indicated that the response by the Premier dealt with the issues as raised in the Section 7.9, but that they did not, in my opinion, include the kind of detail and supporting documentation that we required. And I was also of the view that perhaps from the Premier's office, there was a disengagement with taking responsibility for what had happened in that project, because you'd get statements like it is our advice and so on. My sense is perhaps that was legal advice and so on. But the last paragraph is where I specifically again address this issue. Well, not again, where I specifically address this issue to say that we still have this one-liner which says we've noted the Gupta link emails, but they do not form part of the scope of this investigation. And I felt that, in my view, this was dismissive of the allegations in the newspaper articles, since some of the monies were alleged to have been used for other purposes other than the intended beneficiaries. And I indicated that this might then be a ground for review on the basis that this is a perfunctory approach that goes against what was enunciated in the Mail and Guardian case. And I also cautioned that as an institution, we need to have very good reasons why this avenue was not explored, since we specifically make reference to the emails in the one-liner that I had referred to.
What was the purpose of the reference to the Mail and Guardian case?
In that case, the court had taken the public protector to task for not following where the evidence leads, and had said, if you don't follow the evidence, then your investigation is not complete. That was the purpose that I referenced that case.
In other words, you say you shouldn't simply be confined to what is contained in the complaint.
In the complaint, yes.
Right. Did you receive a response to this email?
I don't recall receiving a response, no, Chairperson.
Did you raise the matter again?
I recall raising it at a subsequent task team meeting, and the public protector then saying that the emails were not part of the investigation.
And did you discuss this with anybody at that meeting?
I recall that during a break in the meeting, Mr. Tebele and Mr. Nemasisi indicated to me that they had raised the matter previously at testing meetings, and the PP had said we are not looking into the Gupta email.
Now, in November, if we go down to paragraph 30 of your report, of your affidavit, you contemplated that if all the information required, you could complete this report by January.
Correct, Chairperson.
At that stage, right? And that the task team could then meet and finalize the issues relating to the financials on the 22nd of January.
Correct, Chairperson.
At that stage, further information from Mr. Mkhwebane was still outstanding. What do you recall about that?
My recollection, Chairperson, is this related to information relating to the beneficiaries and whether they had benefited from the project, if I recall correctly.
Right. And were you present at the meeting where Mr. Mkhwebane had come to the office of the PP?
I was called to the meeting when it was almost done. I remember I received either an SMS or a WhatsApp from Ms. Ntoriseng Mutsitsi saying I should please come down to the main conference room. And when I got there, the meeting was actually winding up.
Okay. So you didn't know what was being promised other than what you had been told?
No, Chairperson.
All right. And by January, had the Vrede report been finalized already?
Not yet, Chairperson.
Right. And then a memo is prepared. Can you recall the memo is at LNR 13 of your affidavit is the email? Right. Mr. Kekani provides you with a memorandum on the 25th of January.
Yes,
you recall
Chairperson.
that?
Yes, I do, Chairperson.
Right. And the memorandum is the next annexure? And it points to a number of issues that it records must still be considered, which is summarized in the committee's been through this memo, so I'm not going to take you through it. But if you go to paragraph 32 of your affidavits, and 33, you detail what the memo records at the time as being outstanding, that the task team still needed to consider the submissions from Mr. Magashule, the internal legal opinion regarding the public-private partnership, the evidence of the beneficiaries, and further evidence from the dear leader had undertaken to provide, which had not been provided. Do you have any memory of the specifics of what was outstanding?
No, Chairperson, I can't say I do.
Okay. You then indicate that you received an SMS in paragraph 36. Just before we go there, Mr. Ndau, do you recall, was it your sense that the information in respect to the beneficiaries was important at the time?
From my discussion with the team, with the task team that was dealing with the matter, my sense was that given the issues that we had investigated, it wasn't.
You then received an SMS from you say a SMS from the PP asking about the progress of the matter.
Yes,
Can you
Chairperson.
more or less recall when that was?
My recollection is that it took, I received the SMS on the 5th in the evening.
Right, and then what did you do?
The following day, then I called together the task team to, perhaps before I go there, Chairperson, no, let me rephrase. Then the following day, I then called together the task team to sit with me. And Mr. Matlawe also sat with us initially in the beginning to look at the report.
Okay. And the PP was out of the country at that time?
Yes, that is my recollection, Chairperson.
All right. And you hadn't yet received all the outstanding information. Can you remember what was missing?
I can't off the top of my head recall what was still outstanding, Chairperson.
Right. And you then convened the team to work on the report, correct?
Yes, Chairperson.
And then you say that on the 7th, you send the revised draft through to the PP. You see
yes,
that from LNR 15.
Yes, Chairperson.
Right. And if you go down to the bottom, you see just on the 7th of February, right? You say it says that at 20 to 3, go down. All right. Attached, please find the report as requested and then go up. You get the response on the 7th at 20 past 4. Sent to yourself, Mr. Kabinda, Ms. Molalekwa, Mr. Nemasisi, and Ms. Mutsitsi. Issue 1 is confusing. Response to Section 7(9) not included in all issues in dispute. Mr. Ndau and team, let's meet at 10 a.m. in the morning. Not happy with some of the information. Nemasisi, bring along your comments. That's from the Public Protector on the 7th.
Yes,
so she's back in office.
Yes.
Right. And
sorry. I can't confirm whether she was back in the office or she could have sent it from anywhere.
Okay. All right. Then at 20 past 5, if you go up, Ms. Mutsitsi writes an email that says, "Dear PP, I wish I could attend the meeting to ensure that I'm not blamed for the substandard report. I will be attending the risk committee meeting tomorrow, chaired by Mr. Jooste, an external appointee. It is one of the governance structures and the committee will help us to curb PPSA risks." So Ms. Mutsitsi, you're not party to that email. You don't see this email. It's not sent to you. Correct?
No, Chairperson. No, Chairperson, it's not correct.
And a copy of the report next to it is then at LRN 16 of your affidavit, which was attached to the email being the copy that you sent. Right? Now you say in your affidavit, right? Sorry. You say in your affidavit at 38.3 that as far as you recall, that was your last input in respect of the report.
Correct, Chairperson.
But, right? Now, if you go down, the PP has asked for a meeting the following morning at 10 a.m. Right? How does it come about that you're not at that meeting?
Chairperson, I had applied for leave for 2 days, which was approved because I was preparing for an interview for the position of Vice Ombud.
And so you didn't attend the meeting on the 8th when the report was finalized?
No, I did not, Chairperson.
You were not at the office at all?
No, Chairperson.
Right. And the previous evening, on the 7th at 20 past 8, Mr. Nemasisi circulates a draft. And it's next to your affidavit. You included in this email. Do you look at that draft the night before? Do you get it?
I don't recall looking at it, Chairperson.
Would the email have come to you at home?
It would have come through when I had already left the office, but it would have come through to my inbox.
And where does your inbox go to? Your phone or your iPad or your computer or what?
It would be, my understanding is it would be saved on the server until I log into the system.
Okay. The PP then communicated with you on the 8th. You recalled receiving a communication, and what did that say?
The gist of the communication, Chairperson, was to say she was unhappy that I was not in the office on a day that we were supposed to be working on a report, and this would make our working together difficult going forward, and that my leave was cancelled forthwith, and I must come to the office immediately.
But you at the time had this interview and you weren't able to do that.
I was actually at the library preparing for the interview. I was not able to do it.
Right. And you then say you anticipated adverse consequences. What happened? Well, let me say this. Did you respond to this WhatsApp or email or WhatsApp?
I don't recall responding to it, no, Chairperson.
Okay. And what then transpired when you returned to office?
On my return to the office, I received a notice, what is popularly known as an Audi letter, from Ms. Mutiti, who was then acting CEO, if I'm not mistaken, to which I then responded.
And after you responded, did you hear anything further about it?
I did not hear anything further, Chairperson.
Okay. And so the report was finalized on the 8th and sent out, issued, correct?
To my knowledge, yes, Chairperson.
Was there a specific reason why the report, to your knowledge, had to go out on the 8th of February?
Not that I'm aware of, Chairperson, because as far as I'm aware, reports would go out in batches, and there would also be a media briefing where a number of reports would be released. To my recollection, this was the only report that was released, solo, and during the night. So I really can't speak to why that was done, but that was my first. It was my first time to come across a report being released in this manner.
Okay, and the one-liner you say relating to the Gupta leaks remain in the final version?
Yes, Chairperson.
And were you at any stage instructed that the investigation had to be constrained or you couldn't do anything because of financial constraints?
Not that I recall, Chairperson, no.
And did the report that you had seen reflect anything to that effect, that the investigation or the had been impeded because of any capacity or financial constraints?
No, Chairperson, no.
And had any other investigation in the office been restricted or restrained because the PP's office had financial constraints that you were aware of?
Not any report that came through PII that I know of.
Okay. Mr. Ndau, I'm going to come to your notice at the moment, or response that you sent to the notice. do that. Let's just take you there, because I think you should take the committee through it. It's at LRN 19. And it's 3874 LRN 19. What was this, Mr. Ndau?
It was the response to the notice that I had received from Ms. Mtsitsi.
Okay. And can you maybe just take us through the substance of the notice without necessarily reading all of it? Let's start by talking.
Yeah, one of the issues that I raised there related to my absence on the 8th when the Friede report was being finalized. It also indicated, the efforts that the task team and I had gone through to finalize the report in the time that it was required. Perhaps just to indicate to the committee through you, Chair, Ms. Mtsitsi had indicated to me when we were working on the report on the 6th that the public protector wanted to sign the report the following day, which was the 7th. And I would keep on receiving emails while we were working on the report to say the PP wants the report, and I would indicate to Ms. Mtsitsi that we're still working on the report. The other aspect that I touched upon was the issue of complaints emanating from provinces. I also I think if we can go down a bit so that I refresh my memory. No, down, not up, please, through you, Chair. There was also an issue relating to, that was raised in the notice, relating to
Mr. Ndau, just stop there, because I think paragraph A, I just want to highlight that you were in charge.
Yes, one of the issues that I raised, because I was accused of actually showing disinterest in my work, and I had to indicate to Ms. Mtsitsi the span of control that was within my area of jurisdiction, and the fact that it was just myself and Mr. Mtupi through whom all reports came to me. I know there were provincial representatives as well, but all Section 7(9)s and Section and reports would still need to come through me and Mr. Mtupi and so on. So I highlighted that, and the fact that I felt that I did not have enough resources.
Okay. And subsequently to this, that's been split into two divisions, inland and coastal, correct? But at your time, you had all 9 provinces reporting to you.
The split happened, I think, just before I left the office, when Advocate Stoffel Fourie, who was at head office, asked to be transferred to the Eastern Cape Provincial Office. That's when the split happened. But at the time of this memo, yes, provincial investigations was just all 9 provinces and regional offices under me.
Okay, and if you go just further down in your notice, you point out that you had raised an issue that meant that all 7-9 notices and reports from provinces had to come through you.
Yes, I was just indicating to the acting CEO, the amount of work that was coming through PII. And also I highlighted the fact that at some point in 2017, an instruction had been given that the two investigation branches at national had to issue 3 reports, and with provinces we had to issue 2 reports per province, which meant 18 reports. So that also added to the work as well.
The acting CEO to whom you addressed this letter was who was it?
It was Ms. Mtsitsi.
Okay. All right. You then pointed out in this notice, if we go to B, that you also had to deal with internal reviews. What
Yes.
are those?
This, through you, Chair, this would be if a complainant is unhappy with how a matter was finalized. Perhaps just to indicate to the committee, if there is no formal report, then the matter would be finalized at branch level or at provincial level. So if a matter was finalized at provincial level and a complainant was dissatisfied with the outcome, then they could lodge an internal review, and all these reviews then would come through to my office, and my team would then prepare submissions on all these reviews, and then they would come to me to take a decision whether I uphold the review or not.
Okay. And you then referred to an instruction that you must conduct file inspections at all provincial offices.
Yes, through you, Chair. Yes, there was that instruction. And I recall with Mr. Mtupi, we went to the Eastern Cape and KZN.
Right. And you also served as chair of the bargaining forum, and you attended task team meetings on a Friday.
Yes, Chairperson.
That was a different task team to the one that had been created for the Freire report that you referred to earlier.
Yes, that would be the task team that was chaired by the public protector.
Right. You then referred to 2 investigators and 1 investigator having been transferred to PII. Who were they?
It would be 2 senior investigators. It would be Mr. Kekan and Advocate Raidani. And the investigator, if I recall correctly, was Ms. Refilo. I can't remember her surname. But they brought their own investigation files with them as well.
And what were they investigating?
They brought files that had been placed within the private office, because that's where they were located with their own investigation. So when they left, when they were transferred to my branch, they brought their investigation files with them. Before that, PII did not conduct investigations. We were about managing provinces and not conducting investigations.
Okay. So they were now conducting investigations as well as assisting you in managing provinces.
Yes, Chairperson.
Right. And over and above task team meetings, you had what's called PII dashboards on a Tuesday to look at investigations. What were those?
Yeah. Those would be our own meetings to look at how far, to look at progress on the investigations that my senior investigators and my investigator were investigating, and also to look at reviews, how far they were with the reviews and so on.
Right. And then you point out, you referred to a backlog in F. Can you just talk about that? There was a backlog in PI.
Yes. I was saying to the acting CEO that given all that I had said above, obviously there would be certain areas where some things, would not move with the pace that I would have liked it to move, given the amount of work that PII was doing.
And you then pointed out that you were working on weekends, you'd worked over the Christmas holidays, and you were given an instruction for an intervention on a water crisis in Masipumelele. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I was just giving an example of we had been to Masipumelele with the public protector during stakeholder engagements, and there had been issues that were raised there. And if I recall correctly, the city of Cape Town had given certain undertakings to do something about services, but they seemed, at least from the spokesperson for the people that we met with in Masipumelele, there seemed to have been no headway. And they then alerted the public protector, and she communicated with me. I can't remember whether it was through a WhatsApp or an SMS. Then I was able then to intervene with the assistance of the Cape Town office. It was just before Christmas.
I think the Honourable Hendricks raised this issue with us at the start of the hearing and the good work that the Public Protector's Office had done in respect of the Masipumelele matter. On the issue, you then deal with outreach programs?
Yes, one of the issues that I had to respond to was the fact that it was indicated that I was not giving guidance on to provinces on outreach programs. And I indicated that strategically, outreach did not fall under PII. It fell under CSM, it's complaints and something management. I can't remember the full name. So I was saying I'm actually being accused of something that does not even resort under my span of control.
And you then point out you approached the acting CFO about...
Yes, Chairperson. What had been happening at that point is all requisitions, whether it's for travel, for anything that province is required, they had to come through me, and they would have to go to finance to indicate whether there are funds or not. And in most cases, there would be a comment from finance to say, funds not available. So I then approached I can't remember whether it was the acting CFO, to say, given this state of affairs, wouldn't it be better if there is a communique to everyone to indicate to them that we've got issues with finances, so that people know, because then they come to me and ask me, why are our requisitions not being approved? Because as far as we are concerned, our budget has not been exhausted. So that's the reasoning behind this issue as I raised it here.
And the CEO then indicated that such a circular was about to be disseminated, and you then requested at the first meeting of EXCO that they must avoid clinics where accommodations was involved.
Yes, that was after a meeting through the chair of EXCO, which was us management together with the CEO, that we were facing financial constraints. And it had been suggested that at the first meeting, if I recall correctly, that things like clinics, which would entail, traveling, and mostly it would be 2 outreach officers, and they would have to sleep over because these clinics were far from where the office is located. If, for example, it's the Eastern Cape office, they would go as far from the Bisho main office as possible in order to be accessible in terms of the Constitution. So that is where this is coming from. So I then indicated to provinces that they should avoid clinics where accommodation is involved. Initially, we just wanted them to drive in and out, which means then to areas which are nearby the office.
Right, and then you deal with the issue of leases, and in 1.10, you deal with the issue of investigations, inspections.
Oh, yes. One of the suggestions, or let me say, one of the discussions at the EXCO that was chaired by the CEO was to say regarding investigations, inspections in loco should be avoided, and that we should consider in most cases where we wanted to investigate, calling officials to our offices rather than going to their offices as well. And lastly, I indicated that as the executive manager for PII, I would sometimes be requested to chair alternative dispute resolution sessions at head office. And sometimes a matter would be a provincial matter, but the involved officials would be at head office. Before we had financial constraints, then the investigators involved would then come to attend the ADR session. But after this, we then suggested that we go ahead without the relevant investigators. That is where that is coming from, Chairperson.
And in point 11, you indicate that the amount of work that rested on your shoulders was considerable, and they should give consideration to more resources to PI above the level of senior investigator.
Yes, Chairperson.
And having said that, you tendered an apology for any impression that you had lost interest in your job. You pointed out how long you've been there and that you take pride in the office that they've achieved over the years and your contribution. And you attached certain areas that you thought could be improved. Correct?
Yes, Chairperson.
Now, this was the response to your Audi letter that you say after you provided this response, there was nothing further that occurred.
Yes, Chairperson.
Correct?
Yeah, correct, Chairperson.
Now, Mr. Ndau, you a couple of months ago, you received a LinkedIn invitation from the Public Protector.
Yes, Chairperson. It was, if I'm not mistaken, on the 25th of April.
2022, this year.
This year, yes, Chairperson.
And how did you respond?
I just accepted the invite because I wasn't sure what it's all about.
Okay. Can I ask you, Mr. Ndau, you familiar with, you've been apprised of the charges in this matter by us, correct?
Yes, Chairperson.
And charge 4 specifically, deals with an accusation that the Public Protector had intimidated, harassed, or victimized staff, or alternatively failed to protect them from the erstwhile CEO in the office, then Mr. Mashlangu. Can I ask you, in your experience, have you been intimidated, harassed, or victimized by the Public Protector?
Not that I can recall, Chairperson.
And have you been intimidated, harassed, or victimized by the CEO?
Mr. Mahlangu. No, Chairperson.
I don't have any further questions for this witness, Mr. Chair, but I do have an issue that I'd like to raise in respect of this witness's further testimony.
Okay, I will allow you to raise that. Thank you.
We are aware from the evidence of previous witnesses that have been before this inquiry that at some point in 2017, and Mr. Chilela took us through the time frames yesterday, that Mr. Ndau had faced a charge of sexual harassment at the office, that he had been served with these charges after he had already tendered his resignation, and that there was no process that followed because he tendered a medical certificate on the time when the first hearing of the disciplinary process was going to occur, and he subsequently left the employ of the public protector. We'd also heard evidence yesterday of him having initially been exonerated, and then based on further investigations, a decision was taken that the matter would then proceed. And Mr. Chair, I'm raising this in the context of the following. Mr. Ndau had been charged. He had not been found guilty of any offence. The issues relating to the charge and the substance of that is highly prejudicial, an invasion of his privacy, and is not material to the motion before this committee. I am aware that the Public Protector's team had obtained a copy of the Human Resources file from the Public Protector's office. And whilst I'm aware of the breadth of the approach of the committee to the relevance of evidence before this committee and the unlimited ambit by which members of the committee have been permitted to ask questions, the approach of the evidence leaders is that the information in the ambit of that information is firstly not material, relevant to the motion, and highly prejudicial, and an invasion of the privacy of a witness who has come forward at our request and who would face tremendous prejudice in the public domain. Mr. Ndau has future plans that could be jeopardized by such information being put out on social media, etc. And it's not so much just the answers that is given to questions, but it's also the questions that get asked themselves. And that would have an impact not only on the witness himself, but his immediate family. And we have seen how that operates. And so whilst I'm not wanting to suggest that no questions can be asked in respect of this, but that firstly there's a consideration given that to the extent any questions of that nature be asked as deemed necessary by the committee, that be done in a closed forum, alternatively that it not be allowed at all.
Thank you, Advocate Bauer. At that point, so that the committee applies its own mind on the issue. And at this stage, wouldn't concede to any of the two options you're putting on the table. But I will ask the committee to spend about 10-15 minutes on this issue. And I will therefore excuse you as evidence leaders, as well as the public protector and the legal team of the public protector, so that when you come back, before the legal team of the public protector starts, the committee would have applied its mind. So that happens both physically here and as well on the virtual. It therefore means you'll have extended tea. We'll be back at 12:15. And therefore, please excuse us because we're going to have our own session and ask our legal team to give us a bit of a briefing. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I may have neglected to say that I have had a conversation about this with Advocate Mkhwebane beforehand. I don't know if he wants to.
No, I'm excusing you and all of you. I'm not opening any discussions from you and Advocate Mkhwebane. Thank you.
Chairperson, that's unfair, but what can we do? Thank you.
Yeah, I says I'll tell it all boy.
Recording stopped.
Thank you.